Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Gay Report. I'm Elliott James.
And I'm Marlena Coelho-sousae. A federal appeals court on Thursday upheld the nation's first-of-its-kind law in California, prohibiting health practitioners from offering psychotherapy aimed at making gay youth straight, according to the Associated Press. The Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco ruled that the state's ban on so-called conversion therapy for minors doesn't violate the free speech rights of licensed counselors and patients seeking therapy. The activities of pastors and lay counselors who are unlicensed but provide such therapy through church programs would not be covered under the law. The case before the appeals court was brought by professionals who practice sexual orientation change, to families who say their teenage sons benefited from it, and a National Association of Christian Mental Health Counselors. They argue that the ban infringes on their free speech and freedom of association and religious rights. The counselors also argued that it jeopardizes their livelihoods. However, in a 3-0 ruling, the court panel held that California has the power to prohibit licensed mental health providers from administering therapies deemed harmful, and the fact that speech is used to carry out those therapies does not prevent freedom of speech. The law says that therapists and counselors who treat minors with methods meant to terminate or change same-sex attractions would be practicing unprofessional conduct and subject to discipline by state licensing boards. Supporters on the ban include Governor Jerry Brown and attorney Kamala Harris, who say the ban is necessary to protect children from harmful practices that can further put them at risk of suicide. They also say the therapy's effectiveness has been questioned or rejected by every major mental health professional association.
This past Saturday in Washington, President Barack Obama spoke in favor of U.S. involvement in Syria, stating that the United States should take military action against Syrian regime targets. President Barack Obama called upon United States Congress to hold the Assad regime accountable for their use of chemical weapons, stressing the importance of upholding international law and the global prohibition on the use of chemical weapons. The president urges the United States to take action while addressing Syria's possible threat to national security. President Obama also stated that this would not be an open-ended intervention and promised that boots would not be put on the ground. The president is currently seeking approval from the United States Congress when they return from summer recess on September 9th. In addition, the president stated that he is comfortable taking military action against the Assad regime without the approval of the United Nations Security Council.
10 days ago, the world watched in horror as men, women, and children were massacred in Syria in the worst chemical weapons attack of the 21st century. Yesterday, the United States presented a powerful case that the Syrian government was responsible for this attack on its own people. Our intelligence shows the Assad regime and its forces preparing to use chemical weapons, launching rockets into highly populated suburbs of Damascus, and acknowledging that a chemical weapons attack took place. And all of this corroborates what the world can plainly see. Hospitals overflowing with victims, terrible images of the dead. All told, well over 1,000 people were murdered. Several hundred of them were children. Young girls and boys gassed to death by their own government. Now, this attack is an assault on human dignity. It also presents a serious danger to our national security. So I ask you, members of Congress, to consider that some things are more important than partisan differences or the politics of the moment. Ultimately, this is not about who occupies this office at any given time. It's about who we are as a country. I believe that the people's representatives must be invested in what America does abroad. And now's the time to show the world that America keeps our commitments. We do what we say. And we lead with the belief that right makes might, not the other way around. We all know there are no easy options, but I wasn't elected to avoid hard decisions, and neither were the members of the House and the Senate. I've told you what I believe, that our security and our values demand that we cannot turn away from the massacre of countless civilians with chemical weapons. And our democracy is stronger when the president and the people's representatives stand together.
According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, there are estimates of more than 2 million Syrian refugees taking refuge in the surrounding countries and border regions. More than 1 million are children. The use of chemical weapons have been banned through the Chemical Weapons Convention since 1997.
Good to have you back, Elliott. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Thank you so much.
So how have you been?
Really great. Honestly, really great.
So I heard you were doing some research and studies in Mexico.
Absolutely. I was down in the southern part of Mexico doing some research on U.S.-Mexican comparative politics, as well as Mexican-European Union, things of that nature.
Okay. So tell me, what was your favorite thing about Mexico, if you could pick one?
The food. The food. You cannot go wrong with the food. Everything. You have your tacos and your enchiladas and everything, you know.
Mm-hmm. Lucky. Okay. Well, it's good to have you back, okay?
Thank you so much.
The Netflix hit Orange is the New Black has won over critics and viewers alike this summer, following its diverse cast of characters in a women's prison in upstate New York, one of them being a transgender woman of color who is played by a transgender woman of color. For one of the first times in TV history, a transgender character is at the forefront of a show and being portrayed by a black transgender woman. Laverne Cox plays Sophia Bursett, a former firefighter sent to prison who acts as a hairdresser, friend, and political conscience for the other prisoners, while also trying to ensure access to her female hormones and repairing her relationship with her wife and son. Laverne shares the challenges of her role with the staff of NPR in a personal interview. Laverne admits that it's hard not just being transgender, but also being a woman who's black, saying, quote, "The industry historically doesn't think that we're marketable, or they want to cast us in very limited ways. But I think the wonderful lessons that Orange is the New Black is teaching us is that it shows our industry, the entertainment industry, that you can cast women of different races, you can cast different ages and body types, and folks will tune in and be interested. And that is what the public is craving."
Now here's a look at your local weather. Last week Thursday, openly gay U.S. Army veteran and Don't Ask, Don't Tell advocate died in a car accident while driving in upstate New York. According to Huffington Post and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Darren Manzella was driving on Interstate 490 in Rochester, New York at approximately 8:30 when his vehicle sideswiped another. According to police reports, Manzella got out of his vehicle and began to push his car when he was then hit by an SUV, pinning him between the two vehicles. He died at the scene. Manzella, a combat medic, enlisted in the U.S. military in 2002 and further served abroad in both Iraq and Kuwait. He was discharged from the U.S. military for violating the then Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy after his coming out on a 60 Minutes interview in 2007. New York Senator Chuck Schumer said in a statement to the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, quote, "We will always remember Sergeant Manzella as someone who had the courage to both fight for his country and to change it." Darren recently married earlier this year in July. He was 36.
Well, that's it for this edition of Gay Report. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Marlena Coelho-sousae.
And I'm Elliott James. Until next time, this is Gay Report.